Right, this won't take long. I've been dealing with this toilet paper holder for 4 years now, and I've only gotten angrier about it. Okay, first of all, look at the obnoxious size of it. It absolutely dwarfs a single roll of toilet paper. It's like it's trying to be one of those huge holders you find in public toilets. Is that what they were going for? Who doesn't want to bring home the public toilet aesthetic? Shall I scrawl a racist comment on the wall and carve out a glory hole as well? And look how onerous the reloading process is. You have to flip up this protective flap, and what on earth is it protecting? It beats me. Then pull this curved flap and press this button all at the same time. Once the old one is removed, then the new one goes in the same way, only the mechanism is incredibly stiff and awkward. And sometimes the brand new roll is too large to go in without a big shove. It's the most needlessly inconvenient invention I've ever seen. This is how it's supposed to function, except it almost never does unless it's a fucking blue moon and you sacrificed your firstborn to the Gormiti, the invincible lords of nature. I'm thinking that it's supposed to auto-reload with a backup roll when you push both of the buttons, but the motion is so rigid that I couldn't get it to work for over a year, and even now it's next to impossible. Here's an attempt that took about 10 goes. Looks smooth, right? It isn't. Look at this! Why do you defy me? I have made offering after offering to the gods of the toilet. Do my gifts displease thee? Why do I have to go through all of these stages? What's the purpose of all this? What was wrong with the simple metal rod design? It's reinventing the wheel. Nothing can go wrong with a metal rod, but everything goes wrong with these mechanisms. When the contraptions you're pumping into the world are more inconvenient than caveman-level technology, then it's time to do some soul-searching. It makes a racket as well because there are a bunch of janky moving parts. God knows why there would need to be. It's for the birds. In fact, it's so loud that every time I use it, it's basically alerting everyone in a 500-mile radius that not only have I made boom boom, but I've also run out of toilet paper. Now, I can understand they need something more complex when it's actually in a public toilet, and they lock the toilet paper up in one of those prisons to stop the hoi polloi stealing the whole roll. But what circumstances did the designer of this monstrosity foresee in my private lavatory to necessitate such a contraption? What do they know that I don't? And I don't want any nerds in the comments saying, "Oh, I've got one of those, they're really good." Come on, get a grip, it's shit. It's just a scam by Big Toilet to charge us more money for toilet roll holding solutions when perfection already exists. This is the platonic ideal of a toilet roll holder. And this is what Cthulhu uses to wipe his... does he have an arse? As the whole point of Cthulhu as an entity is that it defies human comprehension. Therefore, if one could imagine Cthulhu sitting on the toilet, then the eldritch mystique would surely be lost. Also, if you're wondering what the plank of wood is for, it's actually meant to be a shelf that goes up above the door, resting on these two bits of support. So there's such a small bit of support on here, and it falls incredibly easily. In my first year here, I was sleeping, and I had this great crash, and I came into the bathroom to see what had happened, and it was down here. I saw this mark on the floor where the wood had fallen and sort of smashed into the floor and split. That's a tiny sort of split in the floor. Luckily, I wasn't in here at the time. If I had been, it might have fallen on my balls and caused serious injuries. So it's just been very annoying, because that shelf would have been a perfect place to store all of my lurels. I could avoid all of this trouble. It just wasn't to be. The one good thing about it is that I can use it as a sort of museum. Okay, and I can put things on display. So like there's a little friend for who, if I'm on the toilet having a tough time for whatever reason, he's in there sort of giving moral support. That's the one good thing about it. Okay, it's like a tank. I've no love for this particular apartment, and I'm going to be blowing this joint pretty soon, but I wanted to record my anger towards this particular inconvenience before I left. This YouTube channel has become a sort of reverse Pandora's box where I entomb anything that doesn't sparkle with me. In fact, while I've got you here, let me complain about one more thing. This is my kitchen. Look how narrow it is. This is all the space I've got to prepare ingredients and use the chopping board, etc., etc. What's incredible is that this space was actually quite generous compared to most of the other apartments I saw at a similar price range. In fact, some of them don't give you any space between the stove and the sink whatsoever. And there's no oven, so I can't cook all my disgusting British ethnic food like stargazy pie. There's just one induction ring, so when I make spaghetti, I have to make the sauce and then put it on one side and then boil the pasta, and it takes ages. But I am not boiling it in the microwave. What would my nonna think? Of course you'll say, well, why did you choose this apartment then? Which is true, that's my fault. But it's unbelievably hard to find a one-person apartment around here that has a decent kitchen unless you spend a bunch more money. And as I moved in here when I was an international student, this was all I could afford for ages. Why should people have to pay a premium for the basic necessities of cooking? Why should I be forced to use the top of my washing machine as additional counter space for when I want to make a meal more complex than a toast sandwich? One of the main appeals of cooking your own food is that it's cheaper than buying it made by someone else. But in this scenario, you have to pay more in rent to get a kitchen where it's not, pardon my French, a flipping nuisance to do so. But in Japan, I've met a surprisingly large number of people who basically don't cook anything their entire lives and just buy pre-made food for the most part. There's also very little storage space for any of my dishes and cutlery and ingredients. In fact, I have to stack my plates and bowls on top of one another, on top of the microwave, on top of the fridge. I also have to duck down under this low-hanging bar that only goes up to eyebrow height, which, as a tall person, is not quite as bad as a low shower head, but it's up there. Or down there, I should say. Anyway, I'm moving next month, so I'll finally be free of the trappings of a tiny kitchen, thanks to my new, small kitchen. Soused pig's face, here I come. Right, that's it. There's no reward for getting to the end of this video. Your reward is that it's over. Now scram! I have lived all my lives without number. I have sounded all things with my sight. And I struggle and shriek ere the daybreak, being driven to madness with fright.